Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome back to Kayak Fishing Weekly, the show on the Serious Angler Podcast Network dedicated to everything kayak fishing. And I'm your host, Bailey Egbert, and joined with me here is my counterpart, Mr. Justin Largen. What's going on, man?
Can't complain. I don't know if you've been on the water lately. I'm starting to get cabin fever a little bit. I've been doing a bunch of tackle prep, and I'm gonna have to get out there on the water and scratch the itch a little bit this weekend.
I'm in the same boat, but I have like a twofold addiction going on right now where I got my tackle shop all ready and ready to go down my basement. I've decked the whole thing out. I got like a whole do it mold station so I can make my own baits and stuff this winter. And I got like my bait wall and everything. But on the other side of that, I have like my whole hunting rack where I've decked out now with all my gear and like organized everything. And I'm in this phase right now where it's like we mentioned it last week. We were talking with John Dalton from Creek Fishing Adventures, but been having some serious FOMO lately about bow hunting. So I'm literally going scouting tomorrow for a potential late bow season spot next year. And then Saturday, I'm taking the yak out the graphs and going after some late winter for us. Just like mid-December is pretty late winter for us here in New York, smallmouth. So they should still be chewing. Wind looks right for getting out on Lake Erie. So I'm going to spend a whole day chasing some smallmouth because it's becoming crunch time for football on Sunday. So my wife and I, one of our bonding things is watching the Bills and the Eagles play. So it's going to be from afternoon on. I have to be home because it's our time to watch football and stress about our teams that absolutely impact none of us.
Yeah, you got two good teams to root for though. It's
exciting.
I was in DC for a long time, so there hasn't been much to root for in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're a hockey fan, like you don't have anything going for you in Washington.
Yeah.
But yeah, nonetheless, so great guest for us today, Mr. Greg Blanchard. If you guys have watched last week's show, we hinted at it a little bit in the beginning, but then let you guys know that Mr. Greg Blanchard is going to be joining us on this week's episode, and we're going to get him on here in a little bit because we got a bunch to talk about. But I guess first thing before we get him on, Justin, is you mentioned in the last episode about the new native schedule that was dropped, the no limit schedule. You got that pulled up so we can run through it with everybody?
I do. It's kind of cool. Have you fished any of those before, Bailey?
I've not. I had two on my calendar for this year, and as luck has it, I get work trips scheduled on top of both of them. Because I was going to go fish the one I was really looking forward to, just like because I've never fished that style, that format before. My only somewhat familiarity with it is literally watching Greg's videos where he's fished them out west, and it looks super exciting. And they had one on the Susky, and I was really dying to go fish that one. It looked like a lot of fun, but hopefully this next, on this schedule, I think the Susky's back on it, right?
It is. Yeah, and I've only done one, but it was neat. I don't know, somehow it was I mean, I would still consider it like a big national level tournament, but it had just a different vibe to it, where you're not necessarily just hunting five. It's a totally different format, but a lot of fun. But yeah, I'll kick it off here. The season, they're starting on Chickamauga, a place that I've kind of gotten to like, March 2nd. And I'm guessing that's going to be similar water level to what we saw at the TOC, and then earlier this year at the Bassmasters. I'm assuming it's going to be winter pool and low, but I don't think it matters a whole lot. Big fish are going to get caught regardless.
Yeah, they're going to see some big fish caught in that one on Chick.
Yeah, and then they're coming out Greg's way, April 6th on Clear Lake, and that's one I've only fished it. I fished one tournament out there, a KBF deal. I kind of stupidly drove out there from the East Coast and did a tournament out there, but that place is a lot of fun. I'm sure Greg can tell us all about Clear Lake. I've watched all his videos on that place. It's like a mecca. So moving from there, April 26th, so end of April, Lake St. Clair, up in Michigan. I'm assuming that's going to be a pre-spawn deal.
What was it? You said May?
April 26th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's going to be some dang hammers caught if it's April. I mean, you might, depending on if it's trending the way that the Midwest and the Northeast have the past couple of years, you might have some already spawning.
Okay.
But for the most part, they will be shallow. And well, I guess out there too, they could spawn, in 15, 20, but you're going to catch a lot of freaking fish that event. As
Mm.
long as the weather cooperates and you don't have any crazy winds, it's going to be a smash fest.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I've only been there once, and it was more of a summer deal, but it was still a blast. So
Like, yeah, what's
moving
the next
ahead
one?
to May, Lake Hartwell, South Carolina, uh, another fun one. And I've only been there once. I don't know if they'll be catching the tail end of the spawn. Um, but I'm guessing that maybe tail end of the spawn, and definitely a lot of fish I think will be post spawn. But that's another fun one. I mean, it seems like every one of these is one of these destination type lakes.
Yeah, hitting them at the right time, sort of deal. And I think with that one, just really fast before we get too deep into this, is Hartwell. I could see two different things at play because there's a total number of fish, like an MLF style going on, correct? And then there's like a per hour big
Exactly.
fish and like per event big fish. Is that correct?
Yeah, but they also have like a minimum size limit. So for the Shenandoah, or excuse me, for the Susquehanna, it was 14. So, anything under 14 didn't count, which I
Yeah.
mean,
So
I
I
don't
could
know.
see, yeah, Hartwell, like a guy that wants to win the numbers is going after spots, but any guy that wants to win the per hour or big fish is going to go after largies. Where if you think
Mm,
about it, St. Clair, I mean, granted, St. Clair's the amount of smallmouth they have, I don't know if this will play, but St. Clair does have a lot of largemouth. They're just in smaller places, and you could really run away with that the numbers game if you go for largemouth there.
back
But
in some of those
it'll be interesting to
canals, you
see
think?
strategy. Yeah. Okay, what's after
Well,
Hartwell?
Columbia River going out west. Uh, it's just got it listed as Northwest, so I'm not sure exactly which states that covers. But I've heard of Columbia River, never fished it. I know it's another one of those smallmouth meccas. But another that I mean might be another one that Greg has some intel on.
Well, we'll have to ask him.
So we come back east, actually the exact same day. So they got two tournaments simultaneously on June 15th, one out west and one on Gunnersville. And that place doesn't need any introduction. That Gunnersville's awesome. It's I don't know that there's a place that gets more pressure in the country, and for good reason.
And still puts out bags.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So then little bit of a layoff. Next tournament is October 19th on the Susky again. So they're going back. Should be I mean, I don't think there's a bad time you can fish the Susky, but that it's any chance I get to go up there, I love fishing that place. The smallmouth compared to any other river I've fished, they're just built different there.
So yeah,
So
it's a bummer that the Susky event for that on the 19th, the 21st, which is a Monday, which means we'll have to work. Wife will have to work. The 21st is our first wedding anniversary, so that means most likely that weekend we'll have to celebrate that, which I don't think I can get out of that one. For especially the
missing
first.
another one.
I know, man. We'll see. Maybe I can earn some brownie points the weekend before to try to say at least kind of take the one day to get down there. But nonetheless, Susky event, wrap us up. What's the last
Fingers
event
crossed.
on that schedule?
Last one's going to be Lake Fork, Texas, legendary, November 16th. I've never fished at that time of year, but the few times that I have been down there, I don't know that I've made a trip and not caught, a giant fish. So it's one of my favorite places to go, and I might have to find a way to make it down to that one. I think a lot of the other schedules are going to be wrapped up by then, so could be a fun one.
Heck yeah. Yeah. I mean, Texas any time of year. We were just talking with our guest offline. So we might as well bring him on here. So without further ado, Mr. Greg Blanchard. What's going on, man?
What's going on, guys? How are you?
Good, buddy. How's the West Coast treating you?
I'm still able to fish open water. So, I mean, coming from New York, I take that as a win. So, it's definitely getting a little slower. But you can still catch them year round. So it's good. How about you guys? You guys still fishing, or is it wrapped up?
We're getting close here in New York. As you know, when we get into December, it gets pretty dang tough here. your lake selection, if you want to get on a somewhat decent bite, certainly dwindles down the further we get into winter. But Justin, I gotta feel like your lakes stay pretty open. Don't you have some nuclear lakes too?
There are some, as you get a little further north, like Lake Anna is a big one that everybody fishes in the winter. And there's we do get, like, as you get closer to DC, some lakes that'll freeze, but there's a lot of them that don't ever. I don't know. I guess I'm too soft. I don't get out as much in the wintertime. I don't like being cold, having cold hands and cold
Dude,
feet. So I
I
I definitely take the foot off the gas a little bit.
I understand. Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, for folks that don't know, I'm in California, but I grew up in New York or probably what an hour away from you, Bailey, for the first 25 years of my life. And yeah, dude, it's like you have to stop fishing from, well, back when I was there, it was November through April. I mean, I know it's a little different now, but I feel like in a way that kind of like when you get that first trip in the spring, it was like so exciting. And don't get me wrong, I still get excited about going fishing, but it's just like that cabin fever is so intense that that first trip in the spring is like, oh man, it's a feeling like no other, right?
Yeah, because I feel like the fish have the same feeling. They're like, open water, let's eat everything in front of our face. And the bite is always really good for us in the springtime. But
Dude,
I will say
and
the
that's
caveat to that point, like November is when the smart people in the kayaks start or stop fishing. Then you got idiots like me that just keep going until there's ice.
hey, well, I see you still catch them, so I mean, why not? If they're gonna bite, and you can catch them. I'd still do it.
Yeah, no kidding. But I think that's funny, man. Kind of throwing it back, like you mentioned, you're from New York. You're from one of the greatest places, I would say, fishing wise in New York, and people attribute you to be a Cali guy because I feel like when your channel boomed, it was when you were in Cali because you were. It was what? It was New York, Texas, Cali, and you went back to New York for a little bit, and then permanently back at Cali for what the past 4 years.
I think it's been about 5 or 6, believe it
Oh,
or not. I know it's getting up there, but yeah, you're right. I did the travel physical therapy thing after I graduated when I was 25, and yeah, basically did a couple of laps around the country. Cherry picked all the good states with fishing. Of course, Texas, as you mentioned. California was a little bit of an accident, but no, I mean it's nice out here. We've got some amazing fisheries. Of course, I'm in Northern California. We've got the Delta. Of course, I'm sure you guys know the Delta, Justin. Similar to the Potomac tidal fishery, challenging, but you know it's a fun place to fish. Clear Lake. I mean, Clear Lake is probably one of the most famous fisheries
yeah.
in the country, and for good reason. Except I skunked there the other week, but that's another story. Yeah, I mean, it's again going back to just being able to fish year round. There's a lot of options, so California is okay right now. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I was out there very briefly from I think it was 2019 and part of 2020. But I was in Southern California, Los Angeles area, so it was a little bit of a drive for me to get to where you were, and I was very jealous. I did not get to make nearly as many trips as I wanted up there to those. I made a couple trips, but, yeah, I
Yeah,
was I was definitely jealous, of seeing you set the hook, so much punching and frog, and I love to do that stuff, so I live vicariously through you even when I was in California.
well, too. So I was in Southern California for a little bit, and I'm right there with you. Like it's night and day, Northern California to Southern California as far as fishing goes. You know how basically how easy it is to catch fish. It's really tough in SoCal. I mean, then they've got the rules, and yeah, it's a whole nother story about how how to be an angler in SoCal. But yeah, Northern California is one of those places that it's it has slowed down. Let me just say that too. I think believe it or not, before I came to Northern California, it was a lot better fishing wise. The Delta was pumping out, tens every tournament. There's some teener fish. Same with Clear Lake. They had a big die off, and there's some other factors. But it's interesting that we do have some great fishing around here. We get that reputation, but you look at the tournaments, even kayak tournaments, and I guarantee New York, on average, or even where you're from, Virginia, Potomac, those weights tournament wise, or kayak tournaments, those average weights to win tournaments are higher than California. Now we might get like a fluke one out here in Clear Lake, and someone might sack a couple of 30-pound bags, but man, you look at the results from even like my tournament standings. You see the end of the Tourney X, it's like 84 inches to win out of 150 anglers. 82 inches to win, 89. It's tough. So I don't want people to get the idea that, and this is the conception I had was coming to California is just, you're just going to throw a frog on the Delta, 8-pounder, 10-pounder. No. It's a lot tougher than people realize.
I had a similar visions when I went out there thinking swim baits. I bought so much swim bait gear, the big rods and reels, and fishing all these lakes that I'd heard about in Southern California. And it's different than it used to be. A lot of those lakes, or at least the one that I would go to a lot, they didn't stock trout anymore. So those teener sized fish that you'd see 15 years ago, they're just not there anymore.
Exactly.
To your point, Greg, is Cali? Are you saying that Cali is now Florida 2.0, like one big bag to win the tournament, and everyone else is just struggles?
Yeah, I don't know what they say about Florida, but if that's what they say, then yeah, man. Like it. I mean, this year, because I look at the tournament results. I look at when a big tournament comes on the Delta or Clear Lake, just to I'm interested, and it also gives you a little bit of a fishing report. But I mean, just talking to my buddies, my friends that have been here for years and years, this was hands down the worst year that they've experienced in 20, 30 years out on the Delta, for example. I mean, other places were tough too, but the Delta, I mean, even for myself, like I probably caught, this is crazy to say, and I think this is true. I don't think I can count on two hands how many frogfish I caught on the Delta this year.
Wow.
So it was off. Yeah, right. It's off. It was off.
So I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the reasoning behind that Delta slowdown is actually kind of like a touchy subject nowadays, isn't it? Between like the seals and the different things like.
Yeah, dude, there's a lot of theories. I mean, of course, earlier this year we had that historical rainfall. I mean, the Delta was just getting doused with rain, cold water, chocolate milk. I went out 4 times between January, February, and March, and I skunked. I think my first Delta fish was in April. But everyone's like, yeah, tough winter, but it's going to pick up. It's going to be epic fishing. Everywhere's going to be crazy good. Never happened. We kept saying, all right, well, it's June now. It'll pick up. July. It'll pick up. It just never happened. And people, that was the weather, but yeah, people are saying maybe the sea lions are really impacting, the quantity of those big fish. They do spray the grass out here, which, yeah, they need to. I'll be honest, they need to, or else the Delta will be clogged up in certain areas. But sometimes, people think that there's too much spraying. I don't know. It's weird. I really couldn't tell you because there is for sure way less big fish being caught this past year, and I don't even remember a tournament where there was a 10 caught. There might have been 1 or 2, but it used to be like every tournament big fish was a 10, 11 pounder. And
I remember that picture surfacing from, I think it was one of the Toyotas out there, and it was one of those sea lions, whatever the heck they are, with like at least an 8. And that was like in like a chew toy. It was stoning around and it went that circulated around a bunch of places. But I remember seeing that and just being like, if I saw that in person, I might cry a little bit.
Oh yeah, dude. It happens. I've heard of people, guys reeling in big fish and a sea lion will come grab that bass. I mean, I think a lot of people think it's the sea lions because of the spawn. When those big fish spawn, those sea lions can just go up shallow, just go on a munch. But I don't know. I don't know. Fish are resilient too. Fish are resilient, especially tidal fish. So I'd like a little piece of me likes to believe that they just, I don't know, like the big fish just went into the deeper parts of the channel, just buried themselves in grass, and next year they'll show up again. But time will tell.
Yeah, hopefully it comes back. So for people that may not know, and if you kayak fish or you bass fish and you are on YouTube, I like John Dalton last week. If you haven't heard of Greg, you probably live under a rock. And I kind of want to put a small timeline on this because when I talk to some folks that aren't from New York and know like that you started there, some people talk about, hey, do you watch Greg Blanchard's channel? I'm like, well, funny you say that. Like, I think Greg, the first tournament I fished for NYKBF, I think it was like 2013 or 14 when I was still in high school, and I remember it was like 8 of us. It was on the Seneca Cayuga Canal that they have their yearly event on, and it was like 8 of us.
Yep.
I think you won that one, and I just remember that one. I think you had like, oh, we lost Justin, but he'll be back here. I think you had like a couple thousand subscribers, I think, at the time. I remember that one young kid that was like his first tournament. He was like younger than me. He was like a freshman in high school or something that wanted to fish a tournament, and his dad had to drop him off. I remember him being so nervous to come
Oh,
shake
yeah.
hands with you. And
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
you remember that?
I remember that. Yeah, dude, that was, I mean, for anyone who watches my channel, this is a little ironic. I think I do remember winning the tournament, but I remember catching the winning fish in like the last 30 minutes. Go figure, right? And you got second. You probably should have won that
Yeah.
tournament had it not been for that stroke of luck. But yeah, dude, I remember that. Yeah, that was old, man, the old days back at the old canal with Justin Hausner. I mean,
Fuzzy
he's still the
Guppies.
director for NYKBF, Fuzzy Guppies. And, I think at the time I actually had like less than 500 subscribers because I do remember, I don't remember a lot of stuff like this, but I think I remember hitting 500 subs and it was like 2014. So I probably only had like a couple hundred or something like that.
Yeah, you were relatively small. Obviously, I don't think you were ever in that moment thinking you were gonna go full-time YouTube, in that
No.
moment, but I remember just, when people talk about it, sort of thing, how big you are, and obviously, dude, you came a long way, like, you're leading the way for kayak fishing from an industry standpoint, like, people it's cool to see, like, when you go through the comments on, like, your YouTube channel to see how many people have started because of you. I think if you ever had downtime, which I doubt you do, if you went back on like the past 100 videos or say 50 and you just kept a tally of how many people would comment got into kayak fishing because of you, like, dude, I feel like it's super humbling, one, to be able to watch it, but it's got to be humbling from your end too, just because it's all just feel good content, man. You go out and you fish instinctually, you just have fun. It's all it's about.
I mean, I appreciate that, and same goes to you, man. Like it's funny that we started out at at that small little tournament back in 2013 or whatever it is, and I mean, you guys have one of the biggest kayak fishing podcasts out there, if not the biggest. So same to you guys as well. But yeah, dude, it's cool. It's cool, and in a weird way, like I'm just being what I would do normally. I would just go fishing, and
Yeah.
I mean that's pretty much all my videos are. Is just a day of fishing. I throw other stuff in there now that I got like a bunch of goofballs that I hang out with and stuff. But yeah, dude, that's really all it's been. And I mean, just kind of thinking about the timeline. Yeah, that was 10 years ago. That was YouTube 10 years ago. So it's definitely something that hasn't happened overnight, obviously, and
Mhm.
yeah, just it's been fun.
When did for folks listening, when did you make the jump officially to go full-time YouTube?
Um, man, so the thing is, when you say full time YouTube, that is correct, but I mean, you guys know this. It's more than just YouTube.
Yeah.
You're working with sponsors, you're working with affiliate programs. YouTube's not going to pay all your bills, especially out here in California. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle in doing this full time per se. But I still do have my physical therapy license. I still practice when I can. It's something that I don't think I'll ever give up. But I guess the big transition, it was kind of working its way, slowly, gradually. I was working less as a PT, doing more, fishing content stuff. I think the actual transition was probably 2019, 2020 is when I really had that more balance of fishing versus the PT work. So yeah, like I mean, again, not everyone, but I think a lot of people think, with content, social media, you can just grind it for a year or 2 years and you'll be there. You can quit your day job or whatever. Yeah, maybe, but it's that a lot of work and some luck. I'm never going to deny that I was maybe in the right place at the right time. And I don't know. I had a job that I really enjoyed too, so I wasn't looking to, transition to anything. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer, but yeah, 2020,
No,
2019.
yeah, no, I think it's awesome. Honestly, there's I think a couple people, yourself included, that I think one just had the content and you had the personality, and I think it helped. One, obviously, the schedule and the time is the biggest thing to do content, but I think COVID also was a big boost for a lot of people because people just cooped up and they're like, so start searching different things. More people got into fishing and hunting and outdoors in general, and that's when I think there's a bunch of channels that really took off, and from that standpoint,
Yeah.
and I think there was a lot of them that took off, and there's a lot of them that sustained like you did, and there's a lot of them that dropped off. And I think the one that sustained like you did, you can make all the cool content you want, but if you don't have the personality for somebody to attach to, like yourself, you don't build the community. You know what I mean? There's no longevity. I think that's one thing that something is overlooked, where people think, "Oh, I got to get the cool drone shot and everything," and that adds an essence to video. But like,
Yeah.
if you don't draw them in on who you are, then they're not going to stay.
Yeah, dude, you said it. I mean, the community's huge. With content and whatever you do, YouTube, Instagram, I don't even know what else there is. I'm really actually not that good at social media, believe it or not. I think I actually had to text someone how to do an Instagram collab post the other day, and I effed that up. So, anyways, yeah, it is
sounds like
about
me.
community, though. Yeah, like it's so funny. Like I'm really not actually that computer savvy either, but it is about building a community. And I mean, I'm like, dude, super fortunate that I have an amazing community that watches my channel and enjoys what I put out. Again, it's kind of in a way selfish because it's what I'd be doing anyways. I'd be going fishing, and yeah, there's some additional stuff and shots or maybe things that aren't completely fishing related, but it's all centered around a day of fishing. So if people like it, great, and I'll take it.
Yeah, man. I feel like you should just leverage that Sierra Nevada sponsorship and be like some local college kid to do your social media for you and just get some free
speaking
beer
of
now and
speaking
then.
of Sierra Nevada, we got a Celebration Ale right here. One of my favorite beers, Sierra Nevada, the Celebration Ale. It's quite tasty. Just for anyone out there who's 21 years or older, I'd recommend it. But yeah,
Disclaimer.
no, but yeah, Sierra Nevada, right place, right time. I mean, my buddy Terrence Sullivan works for Sierra. He's worked there for I think over 25, 30 years, and he watched the channel and messaged me if I wanted free beer. I was like, oh man, I don't get a lot of creeps, but I was like, is this one of those rare creepy moments? Like, I don't know. Older guy wants to give me beer. And I was like, well, what's the worst that could happen? I'll take the beer. So I actually met like one of his distributors and got the beer. And from there on, it just kind of rolled. We met. Obviously, he's super cool. Beer Santa, as we call him. And yeah, he's part of the crew that we do the tournaments with. And yeah, I mean, we drink a lot of Sierra Nevada, so it works out. We did before too. That was the funny thing. We all liked it before, so it was a match made.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, and they shipped your kayaks to the
Yeah.
championship. And that was a cool story for
Oh,
you.
yeah. And that's where you said Justin was at the championship, right? You were there and on stage. That was a good time.
It was. That's still one of the coolest moments. Obviously, we didn't win, but walking across that stage was special.
That's all I cared about. Stage, even though I was the 10th place person. I didn't care. I could have been 10th. I could have, well, if I won it, that would have been probably a little more special. But just getting on that stage was super cool. And yeah, I mean, just kind of what we're talking about earlier, just the sport growing during COVID and now seeing it. I mean, I know, Bailey, you're heavily involved in the industry. And I mean, you can see, Bass coming in and Hobie BOS has gotten huge. And it's like everywhere in the country. I mean, dude, in that 2013 tournament, eight people at it. What do you guys get now for an NYKBF event to get?
We averaged over
70,
50
80?
tournament. We averaged over
That's
50
good.
people tournament this past year with, I think the biggest one was like 92,
Okay.
which is unbelievable for New York.
Crazy.
It's awesome.
Crazy. So
yeah, and you know what?
Cool.
You mentioned him earlier, but we got to give the shout out to the OG Justin Hausner, who ran one of the best kayak shops. It's no longer but Fuzzy Guppies, where he'd let any of us come and launch for free and go fishing. And he's arguably, in my mind, obviously you have your Steve Owens and your AJ McCorders on the national side, but I'd give him up for a runner of best local trail tournament director in the entire country. He just puts a lot of effort into the anglers and people having a good time. And it's dude, I mean, the NYKBF trail, it's competitive, but it's a really damn good time. You just go there to hang out with people more than anything else. And it's Justin built that culture. So I just got to give him a little shout here on the show. But
Agreed.
He's good people.
I second that. Yep, I agree. Very much agree.
Yeah.
And
hopefully
I'll be able to visit you guys in the spring again. I like to cherry pick April, May, around that time when the fish start getting stupid. And hopefully we'll see you guys then.
Are you gonna do the Hobie on Cayuga again?
The Hobie, that's June 5th.
I think so. Is that right? It's the first weekend in June, I think, before Bass Opener starts.
I don't know. I love that end of April, but maybe I'll just have to stay for like 2 months. I don't know. I might have to.
Hey, if the Delta fishes like it does again last year, it might be your best interest to stay for 2 months.
Dude, don't even say that. I that was depressing. I mean, I don't know. Do you? I mean, Bailey, you call it quits after about December. You said in New York.
I mean, if it stays open, I'm still gonna go.
Okay.
I mean, we got a couple of
Justin,
them.
you said
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, Justin, you can fish year round if you wanted to, but
yeah, I definitely slow it down. But
yeah, well, I slow it down too. But man, last year, just even like striper fishing on the Delta, that's kind of like the saving grace out there. And I think the toughest months are January and maybe early February. But if anything, you can go get striper out there, and even the striper were all goofed up last year. So yeah, I don't know if it's anything like 2023 on the Delta. It doesn't kick into gear till, well, it never really kicked into gear. I might have to spend some extended time out in New York.
Well, here's what you'll do. You get your crew, put them all on a Sierra Nevada truck, and get over to New York, and we'll take you for a couple months. We got guest rooms,
dude. I've talked about it with them. I'm like, you guys got to go to New York, and I don't even care when, May, June, July, August, doesn't matter. You have to come. You have to experience it, because all of my friends, the main crew that I fish with, they all grew up in California, have been here their entire lives. I mean, we've done a couple of random trips out to, we have some old KBF championships in Tennessee, and we did, of course, with Justin the Bassmaster and Richard B. Russell. But they all they know is California fishing, and it's nothing like New York fishing. It is so. You know what? I've actually started editing. I do like a year annual video. It's always the first of the new year, so it's going to be January 1st, 2024, and it's like the top 50 catches from the previous year. And I started doing that. I've got all the footage, and it's funny. There are, of the 50 biggest fish that I caught in 2023, there's probably 15 from New York, and I spent maybe 2 weeks there. So, I mean, let's do the math here. I think New York's a little bit better.
Oh man, it is special. Yeah, he's got to remind the state to keep taking care of it. But, dude, talking with your content and your style of fishing, we're kind of curious if you had to, when it comes down to it, if somebody asked you what kind of angler you are, because I feel like people that watch your content, you go in like cycles with baits that you feel you have confidence in. What do you feel like at the end of the day, style wise, as an angler? What would you claim yourself as?
Oh man, that is a good question, because you're exactly right. I do have like little periods where I'm all finesse or all frog or punch. I mean, it really just depends on where I'm fishing, but I still like to consider myself a shallow power fisherman. I still, like going shallow, fishing grass. I mean, that's why I like the Delta so much and didn't give up after skunking many a times this past year. But I think if anything, that's kind of where I've had the most success. Even back in Texas, shallow flipping, chatterbait, stuff like that. I think that's usually what I'd gravitate myself towards. But I mean, out here too, you better be good with a finesse rod out on those deep reservoirs. I mean, if you just have to be. It's just how it is. But shallow power fisherman, I'll go with that.
Love it. It's cool to see the versatility though that you can build up in California. Like look at like a Damien Tao and look at his content too, like similar to yours. It's just a mass array. I will give you credit though. You're way more organized than Damien. It is actually hilarious when he like posts his center box and it's just like a clump of baits that he's just like trying off a Christmas
Yeah,
tree. And it's but then he goes and
Damien.
starts smoking them. Like it's wild.
I definitely got to give Damien credit. I mean, I'd say he's probably the best kayak angler out west. It, dude's good. Yeah, he may be a little unorganized, but he does his fair share of work on the tournament scene. And I mean, he came east with you guys, I think, a couple times
Second
this past
second
year,
place.
and I think there's a lot of eyes on him just to be like, well, is he just good at the California lakes, or is he versatile enough to, replicate it back east? And I think he showed up, right? He did pretty good.
Yeah,
Got
he
Yeah,
got
there's
second.
second or
some guy named Russ Snyder's beat him, but I think that's
yeah.
happened to a lot of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Russ is a Cali guy too, right? Originally.
I
OG.
believe so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Russ used to fish Clear Lake and Delta. I don't know how many years
He's a
ago,
big
but
Delta fan. Yeah, he was telling us that on our show with him, that he spent a while in Cali, fish team tournaments, like out of the boat in Cali for a while as well. And I believe that's how he knows a bunch of those guys because like he was on the Bilge, the Zaldanes podcast, and he knows like
yep.
Justin Lucas and all those Western boys. So it's he's his roots are out that way, which probably why that dude's so dang versatile around the country. But we had Christine Fisher on, I believe it was Christine's show. Justin and I were talking about Damien in regards to like if that dude gets the ability to start doing more of these Hobies and bass, people are in trouble. Like that dude, you can just see it in his content, just like the confidence he has in the instincts that he can put forward of just like you could tell he doesn't second guess anything he decides to do on the water. Like, and it's just smooth and he does something very unique too. And like there's a couple different things that like he'll do out there that like it seems like he goes like 100 feet of fluorocarbon on his spinning rods, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, does this dude not have glue on
Yeah.
his spinning rod? But he makes it work, and like seems like he gets more bites, and I'm like sitting there, should I be trying that? Like the dude, he seems
Yeah.
wicked good, and he's one that I'll call him out a little bit on here because we've been trying to get him on the show. I've been dying to get Damien on the show, man. I was teasing him a little bit at the classic too because I got to meet him there. So this is your public service announcement, Damien, that we're coming for you.
I'll shoot him a text and be like, hey, dude, you got to get on there and tell him. Because I mean, don't quote me on this. I think he is going to try to travel a little bit more this year for tournaments. I think that's what we chatted about a few months ago. So, yeah, you're right, dude. He's really good. He'll take a top 10 place in just about every tournament he fishes more often than not, for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody that shows up to Chickamauga and throws a Carolina rig on a spinning rod is just an evil genius. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even
Dude,
know where he gets these ideas sometimes. I'm like, where did you think of that? How do you know to do that?
I went back and watched that video recently, and I was at the same ramp as him. I didn't even catch a limit that
Are you?
day, and I didn't even realize it until like literally I don't know, it was 2 weeks ago. I went and watched the video, and I'm watching what he's doing with the Carolina rig with the spinning rod out offshore, and I didn't even try that. And yeah, he kicked my teeth in at that one.
Dude's a
Well,
wizard.
join the club, man. He beats up on us pretty good out here, and yeah, he's only getting better too. That's the scary thing. So
Yeah. Well, dude, so I mean, obviously you've been around the block too. So you talked about it earlier, grew up in New York, went down to Texas for a while, been in Cali for a while now. What do you think is if you were to ever like leave California, what do you think is your biggest takeaway from a learning lesson to moving out west? Like, what do you think looking back that you've developed the most for the better, being in fishing in California?
like, dude, what we talked about earlier, versatility. You have to be versatile in just about every fishing style out here because, especially if you do the turn. I mean, granted, you could just go fish the California Delta or Clear Lake every day of the year or every fishing trip, and that's similar techniques. But I mean, the deep reservoirs out here, how clear they are, the pressure. I mean, there's a ton of pressure. I mean, Clear Lake especially. We're saying if Clear Lake actually was clear, and for those of you guys who don't know, Clear Lake is not clear. It's always like a dirty green, disgusting color. But if Clear Lake was clear and you could see those fish, they would not bite. The only reason they bite at Clear Lake is because the water's murky and you can trick them. But just with all those factors, versatility. I mean, and it's been a good thing, because before that I was kind of set in my ways. In New York, you can fish in 5 foot or less in the spring, summer, fall, doesn't matter, you'll catch them. When I was in Texas, same deal. That time of year, shallow fish, and they're big fish. And then you come out to California, and yeah, you can do that, but with the tournaments especially, and that's one of the things I like about the tournament scene, is it forces you to go to different places, different bodies of water, and it forces you to improve as an angler and improve your skills. So yeah, that would be the biggest takeaway from being out west for sure.
I love it. Heck yeah.
And I'll never forget this either. It is getting further and further back as we go in time here, but and I know people won't let me forget this, I showed up to Texas in 2015 with 2-piece rods. So just saying, 2-piece Bass Pro tourney specials, 2-piece rods. My frog rod was on a medium, like a crankbait rod. So my point being is I'm still learning every year too. That's one of the cool things, as you guys know, like fishing. I mean, even with the new technology, you're always learning every year. It's something that you can't just master and that's it. It's always, evolving.
Yeah.
Shoot, I remember those Kmart rods. I think Shakespeare was the brand of them. That was all I could afford back in the day. And shoot, yeah, I caught a lot of fish on those.
Dude,
you don't have to have the highest end gear to have a good time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Dude, so we got a couple quick questions. We're gonna wrap things up here and let you go here in a second. But we talked about it a little bit briefly offline, but on the YouTube side of things, obviously when you're filming your entire day and you're successful, people watch your videos, it's pretty hard to not give up either something juicy you're throwing or a spot that seems to be successful over time. And this is something I'm still struggling with, where I have videos edited the full thing, but I can't bring myself to post them right now because half the field in New York's going to be on them next year. So it's like the content is awesome. I'm like, do I really want to give this up? Like, how do you deal with that, especially with YouTube being and that content being a primary factor of what you do for a career?
That's a really good question, and it's something I've learned, I guess, a little bit throughout the years. Let me first of all say, I think, honestly, and you don't have to be humble, I think you're probably a better angler than me at this point, and offshore especially, definitely offshore. So I can see where your honey holes, you AOI, I don't even know how many tournaments you won in the past 3 years, a million in NYKBF. They probably, bro, you're always winning. So you actually, you've got some juice. I find some good stuff here and there. It is one thing I will do, and I think it's a good thing. But around California, especially the Delta, it's always changing. Places are always changing around here. Yeah, there's a couple places that are, you have confidence in. But if I get on a bite and it's pretty good, honestly, I'll sit on that video for a little while and I'll upload it in a month or so, and I'll go back and I'll catch those fish. And again, I don't find these amazing areas, and out here, the places that we fish, aside from the Delta, are relatively small. So everyone kind of already knows where the good spots are. So to me, it's never a huge concern. There are a few little tiny sloughs that, I won't exactly say where I'm at. But again, I'm not like you, dude. I don't have like a bunch of amazing offshore rock piles to catch 25 pounds. So yeah, maybe if I was better and caught more fish, I'd have something to worry about. But it's not a big deal, though. That all said, too, I have had a few videos, and I know enough people now that are out on the water, and if I do get in a video and that like a friend is in that particular area the next week or whatever, this has happened multiple times. You're like, dude, that video you posted, there's like 25 kayakers sitting on it right now. So it does happen. But
Yeah.
usually it doesn't affect me. I don't really care anyway. So, but that's a good question. I
Yeah.
don't know how you're going to deal with that for you going forward, because you got a good channel, and I don't know. I'm looking for. I know I like watching tournaments and fish catching, and you've got a real pickle on your hand there, Bailey.
I know. There's there's been a couple lately. I decided to post way later after the fact, hoping that people will watch it and then just completely forget when it comes springtime. But I know there's a couple things that are burned, man, for going forward. Like it's especially like looking at state championships and what I was doing. Like as long as you had the I mean, you could still catch them without it, but what I was doing in state championships, I was on something the entire field. Nobody was on anything like that. And I was out in the middle of the lake. Like, if they do that again, then on that lake, half the field's going to be out there because
Was it a
I think
bait, like a presentation?
I mean, it was with our states, it was a 2-day event, and it was in the schooling time of year. And literally, you just pull up and see bait balls everywhere on side imaging. And even if you didn't have forward-facing sonar, you could just throw whatever you want: crankbait, Damiki, A-rig, top water. And they would like literally, dude, as soon as it hits the surface, even if they're 30 feet down, they would just a whole pod would just rocket up and fight over your bait.
Okay.
Like when I tell you, sunrise for this tournament was like, I think it was like 7:15, and by 8 o'clock I had 92 inches already every morning. It was just, I know it's ruined. Like it's done for now. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's one thing, you think you're gonna do content, you just gotta be accepted with the fact, that you're going to ruin some stuff for yourself.
Yeah, I think that is the sad truth of it, is that's just how it will be. And maybe in a good way, it'll make, someone like yourself like a better angler, because then you have to go find something else too. You can't just rely on that every year. I mean, because you guys, NYKBF in particular, I mean, it's pretty much the same bodies of water every year, minus plus or minus a couple. So, Cuga Lake, I'll take the blame on that one for the bridge. I mean, I know I'm not the only one, but man, those are some of the, and I didn't even know about the bridge. I lived close to Cuga Lake on the north end, so I went to the bridge when I didn't know they were like the most popular bridges in North America, or at least they are now. But
yeah, they're definitely the biggest community hole in New York at this point.
But I mean, it's like whatever. Like it's it makes you find something else. And the last couple of times I've been in New York for the tournaments, like I've not fished those bridges. I've gone, towards different shorelines down the east and the western sides with grass, and there's still fish there. There's good fish there too. So yeah, I mean, I think it in a way it makes you a better angler too, because you have, like as I said, you have to find something else. You can't rely on the same thing every year. Plus, that would be probably boring too.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, let's be honest. Those bridges are still putting. I mean, it was one there again last year, the 100 inches, for that elite /
yeah.
It's I hate it, dude. Have you seen any of the videos from that event where it was like 12 guys lined up bumper to bumper casting at the same spot? I'm like, it looked like people steelhead fishing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can never do this ever. I cannot have the brain capacity to go sit and like literally hold hands with you and make the same cast.
I couldn't do that either. It wouldn't be fun. It just wouldn't be fun to me in general. Like I wouldn't care about the tournament. I just like the fun factor. You still gotta have fun when you're out there. And just like sitting. I mean, if it's fun, and I mean, fine. It's fine. You can do it, but yeah, nah, probably won't do that.
How do guys not get tangled? Like, how does the fish not turn and wrap up other people's lines? Because I noticed, like I see trout guys sometimes, standing in a hole, like seemingly shoulder to shoulder, and I don't
know.
I think like you guys, I can't do that.
It was pretty bad. Like when I was watching the content, I'm like, look.
I think the good thing though is, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't remember hearing of any like unsportsmanlike conduct. I think
No.
everyone that was there was like, cool. It's like, let's do this, guy. Like, it was very, it was like a camaraderie kind of thing. And hell, if that's, how you want to spend your tournament day, nothing wrong with that. And so I really can't fault anyone then.
No, and it's definitely not that. It was they all seemed to get along fine. They were really professional about it. Guys are joking with each other, and I mean, shoot, they were just catching fish. It's just like
Exactly.
I was saying, it's just I can't physically with my brain, I can't do it. And the only thing negative I actually heard about that instance was a guy was actually should have won that tournament. He had like 102 inches or something like that. But 3 of his fish that were all like 21s and 22s, the
I
identifier
remember
was like
that.
KSJ or something like that, and he did a KJS. Something like one minor
Oof,
slip
yeah.
up, and they DQ'd all those fish, even
Oh,
though one of the tournament directors was like right next to him watching him catch all those fish, which honestly
yeah.
I hate that. Like that small little. I mean, I know it's the rules. I like it comes back to if you watch the football, it's that whole Kadarius Toney foot over the line DQ the whole play, even though it wouldn't affect the outcome. Like it was one of those things where I'm like, dude, the guy caught like in a field of 30 people on that bridge, caught 3 fish that were over 21 inches in a row. Like, give it to the man. He's got the 3 letters there. I don't think anybody would say no to it. I mean, I know it's the rules, but it was like a bummer to see.
Yeah.
I guess he like learned that he
Remember that.
put the wrong identifier and left, and man, that had to have hurt. I
Oh.
wouldn't want that pain on my worst enemy.
Oh man, it hurts enough when you lose one big fish in the tournament. Imagine having your whole 100+ inches wiped away. I mean, yeah, dude, that's brutal.
Yeah,
That sucks. Hopefully he
I know.
gets some redemption next year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of next year, man, you have a new setup. I don't know if people have seen your new recent video, but you got a nice
Yeah,
sweet
yeah, yeah,
rig
yeah.
fleet, man.
Yeah, the Titan X 10.5. So I mean, I think everyone saw it at ICAST, the Titan X series. That was the 12.5, but I got the little mini version. Just set up a couple of weeks ago. I've had it on the water a few times. And yeah, I mean, dual graphs, getting real fancy nowadays. I got a Mega 360. So yeah, I mean, it just made sense for me. It really isn't too much different from what I had before. I've got
Yeah.
an extra graph now, Mega 360. That's the biggest change. And for folks who don't know, that's not live. So I haven't gone to live sonar. This is basically
The dark
360
side.
side imaging. Yeah, yeah, dude. I mean, I was like, yeah, and I didn't do that for that reason because I know there's a big, you're either on one side of the fence for the side, live sonar, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It made sense to me. Like as far as what I like in electronics is, I like side imaging. I still utilize down and sonar, and having 360 side imaging was appealing to me. And maybe the next step to maybe a live sonar someday. And I said I've been out on the water 3 different times, and it is worth it. It is incredibly worth it. That 360 imaging. Um, I mean, I was fishing a point the other day, a point that at Lake Berryessa that I fished, I don't know, dozens of times, and it usually always holds fish. And I know it's because there's this long tapered point, and there's like this rock pile at the end. And I always kind of know where it is. I can see it on my graph on the side imaging, and I just I can just tell where it is. So I'm always casting towards it. But dude, with that 360, as my boat was slightly moving in the wind and that thing was panning around and resetting, I could tell exactly where that rock pile was in the exact distance to make the cast. I'm like, yeah, I caught a bunch of fish. It was awesome. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the kayak, that is the big change of the kayak, the electronics. But I mean, everything's pretty much the same. Still got a motor, still got tackle trunk in the back. It just looks a lot cooler in photos and video for sure.
Yeah, and the wizard always comes up big with some creative ideas. I'm always fascinated every time you
Oh,
do a walk.
yeah, he's insane. Every time, yeah, he always surprises me. Every time I show up and see what he's done to the kayak, I'm like, Jesus, dude, what is you're insane. But no, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, dude, Ramel is every time I see the stuff he makes, it almost makes me I don't wanna say jealous, more like envious that my brain doesn't operate that way. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you're just thinking totally out of the box, super, like, clean cut with how the everything's, like, installed, and I'm like, Man, I wish I know I will never be that way. I'm just like, I don't know. It's a
Me neither.
satisfaction thing, man. I just appreciate it, you know?
Yeah, he's super dialed. I mean, he's very uh, detail oriented. I think so. When I actually got the kayak from him and took it to Clear Lake, um, I had a black pack with me because we didn't think the tackle trunk would fit. And I got home and I found I just for kicks I put the tackle trunk in there and it fit in the tank wall, but it wasn't like even. There wasn't like balance, so I had to add like a platform. So I just like took like styrofoam. I cut the styrofoam with like a knife and like super glued it to my kayak and made the tackle trunk nice and flush with the back. And then I showed it to Ramel, and I think I about gave him a heart attack of how ugly it looked. And my DIY I mean, it works, but I
Yeah.
think it took him back. It's like, ooh, yeah, we can do something better with that. I'm like, hey man, it works. But anyways, yeah, he's talented. He is talented.
I think we're one and the same that we, as long as we can jerry rig it and it'll do for the time being, we'll rock with it as long as we can.
Hey, hey, if it
Mm,
works, I'm game.
yeah. Heck yeah. Well, dude, so,
Yeah.
with that, I guess, like, one of the last things for you is with that new rig, and obviously you kinda have your fleet of natives, like, when are you gonna decide to bring out the Titan X versus, say, the Slayer? Like, when are you gonna use that and to leverage that in tournaments or fishing conditions?
So as of right now, the Titan X is definitely the tournament boat. All tournaments will have the Titan X. Um, Slayer Max, this is silly to say this, but it's in a weird way true. I think overall, and I've said this before, I think overall my favorite fishing kayak, overall fishing kayak, not tournament kayak, fishing kayak, is the Slayer Max 10. It is so damn light. I mean, it's the one I
Mhm.
rock in New York. I have that
Yeah.
in New York, and it is so light. It forces you to bring less gear, which is a good thing. Um, that one is kind of smaller water. If I'm fishing really like maybe a really calm day, or maybe I'm going to an area that has a lot of grass and I need to paddle. That one is always going to be a player for me. I have it. I'm never going to get rid of that kayak. It's really to me one of the best fishing kayaks I've ever owned. The difference is with the Titan X 10.5 in tournaments now. I need 10 rods. I need the graphs. I need the Mega 360 now. Apparently, I need all those things to give me as much advantage as I can to catch up to people like Damien and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, it's cool to have different kayaks. I don't think there's a perfect kayak for every situation, of course. And yeah, I mean, I even got some like paddle kayaks in there too, and I've taken those out a few times, and I'm keeping those. So it just depends on the situation. But I will be tempted to get a 10.5X in New York. Not promising anything, but I I do love my Slayer Max 10, but there are a lot of similarities. And if I did get a 10.5X for New York, it wouldn't be like the one I have now. It'd be
Yeah.
very simple. It'd be, lightweight, one battery, small motor, one graph. I'd probably just throw a little black pack in the back. Um, because in a weird way, and when people see it more, and for people that have native boats, it's you almost think it's like a Slayer Max upgrade, like a fat Slayer Max. I mean, it's still a Titan. It's
Right.
big, it's heavy, but it has a lot of the features like hull design, just kind of the accessory, the components are more Slayer Max like. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of good stuff.
Heck yeah, man. Well, dude, wrapping things up here. I don't know if you guys are watching, obviously you can see it, but if you're listening, we've lost Justin. I don't know if his internet is going to let him come back and join us for the remainder of the show. So you guys are stuck with me closing it out. But my last question for you, Greg, and we'll let you go here, is looking ahead at the rest of your career, or if you want to stay in fishing, what is one thing you want to accomplish, like from a kayak angler standpoint? What is one thing you want to do before you're done?
Well, I hope that I'm fishing out of a kayak, anything really. I hope that I'm fishing um, as long as I can for the rest of my life, for sure. I don't know, YouTube. There's so many things you can't predict as far as content creation and then the platforms. I mean, as long as I have the opportunity, I've been doing it for 10 years, so I'm going to continue filming and doing that sort of thing. But I think the biggest thing, and that's a tough question. I think the biggest thing is just enjoying it. I mean, it's a simple answer, but it's the truth. Fishing. I got into fishing, through my grandpa when I was, I think 4 years old, and it is literally like my favorite thing in the world. It's just something I'm in love with. It's a passion. It's something that brings out a different type of joy in me every time I'm on the water. So really, and maybe it sounds selfish, but I think that's what I'd want at the end of everything with fishing, is just to enjoy every trip, to maintain that fire, that passion, um, and share it with others. So and this too. Everyone that fishes knows this. It's just a different feeling. First thing in the morning, getting on the water, waiting to make your first cast, stuff like that. Even the trip to the lake, it's that feeling is just different, and it's special. So as long as I can have that, share it with others, I'll be happy.
I love that, dude. Perfect answer. That's awesome. Well, dude, my one last request from you, and this isn't even just in the show, but keep the mustache going. I want to see some like Greg Tom
I mean,
Selleck stash out of you here soon.
I'm due for a trim, but I mean, I'll be honest too. This has been about 10 years in the works. I don't even need a real shaving device. It's a challenge for me to grow facial hair still at this age, but I appreciate that. I'll let her grow as long as I can. I mean, if she wants to go down and get a little handlebar deal, I think I could do that. It might look a little odd, but I don't know. Maybe people like it. Change it up a bit.
Get a little Sharpie in there, and you'll be all right.
Yeah, yeah. See.
Drawn out. Well,
Exactly.
dude,
Yeah.
it was awesome to catch up with you and get you back on the show, and loving the new mods you're making to the new rig, and obviously, of course, loving the content as always. So keep it up, and man, I'm looking forward to you getting back to New York, and I got some big things in 2024 that I can't disclose with anybody yet, but hopefully it just means I'll be able to come fishing with you more when you're back home.
Sounds good. Well, that, and if you want to come to Cali, you're always welcome. But if anything, I will definitely see you in New York, and we'll go to some of your waypoints and catch them. Right?
Yeah. Hey, you got
Share
the
them with me.
360 now, so it'll be good.
I know. It's fair. It's fair now. So yeah, sounds good,
That's
man. I
right.
appreciate you having me on.
Heck yeah, buddy. We'll be talking to you soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, folks, that was Mr. Greg Blanchard. And like I mentioned, we are unfortunately stuck without Mr. Justin Largent for the remainder of the show. His internet decided he was not going to be friends with him, unfortunately. So he hopefully we'll get that fixed and up and ready to go for next week. Apologies on that. It's been first it was me earlier this year, and now apparently the internet gods have said to not rain down on Justin, unfortunately. So with that being said, I will cap off our segment here. We have our last, you guys know every show now, we do the kayak fishing kings and queens of the week. So I'll go through, and we have two for this week. Truth have it is we actually filmed this episode with Greg. It was actually last week, the day after that John Dalton's episode dropped. Just like from timing and everything, we guys told you scheduling is always the hardest part about this show. So we didn't have a bunch of kayak fishing kings and queens off the get-go. We do have some that are well worthy for this week. And one of them we actually talked about last week. We brought it up off of a Instagram post that we saw, and we actually looked up the company and everything. Super intriguing. I really want to get my hands on one to try and fish out of this year. And it is from the people that is our kayak fishing king is the Noisy River Outdoors. They have a Flip Cat kayak, which literally is a suit trunk that you guys saw on last episode. A suit trunk that transforms into like a catamaran style kayak. It looks like that Blue Sky. Super intriguing. And the story of it is that it came about when they didn't have enough space, apparently, to put their kayaks, and their landlords and HOA or whatever wouldn't allow them to have all these full-size kayaks. They had to innovate. So they decided to make their own. They turned a suit trunk basically into a kayak. It retails for $5,500. So it is a little bit on the steep side, basically the same as like a Hobie Pro Angler 14. It is a rather larger kayak. But something super cool. We'll link the link down below to that website. You guys can go check that out. But super intriguing. Definitely give that a look over if you guys are just kayak fishing junkies like the rest of us here on the show. But our last one here, and it's our kayak fishing queen of the week. And that's a shout out to Wesley Gray. Wesley has been, honestly, I think it's a little bit overlooked. She had a great tournament season. Some great finishes, some top 10s. And honestly, she puts out some pretty dang good content. One of the kayak fishing moms of the tournament trail scene here. And got to give her a shout. I'll drop the links down below so you guys can follow her on social. But got to give props where props are due. But that is our kayak fishing kings and queens of the week. Unfortunately, like I said, Justin can't close this thing out with us, but folks, we appreciate you as always. If you're listening to this, please give us a rating and review on MP3. Just helps us get seen more, and more people see this show, the more we can help grow the sport of kayak fishing and really bring some notice around to the amazing people in it, like Greg, that are doing a lot of good for the sport and give us some attention where it's due. So, folks, appreciate y'all, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.